Good evening. This is the regular joint meeting of the Oakley City Council acting as the successor agency to the Oakley Redevelopment Agency, and special meeting of the Oakley Public Finance Authority. This meeting is called to order at 6:30 p.m. Roll call. Councilmember Fuller.
Dr. Fuller's here.
Councilmember Meadows.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Henderson.
Here.
And I am Mayor Shaw. I'm present. I am going to call up Kimberly Fife from Delta Vista Middle School to do our pledge. Kimberly is an 8th grade student at Delta Vista Middle School, a member of our California Junior Scholarship Federation for Volunteering, web mentor, and a Girl Scout cadet. Her troop earned their bronze award 2 years ago, and they are working on their silver award project through Girl Scouts with work at local schools. She is a competitive team dancer and enjoys spending time with her friends and family.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated.
All right, we are going to move on to item 1.3, which is a proclamation recognizing April 6th through 12th as National Library Week. And Lisa Canu-Loomis with the Oakley Library Manager, will you meet me up front? Whereas libraries spark creativity, fuel imagination, and inspire lifelong learning, offering a space where individuals of all ages can explore new ideas and be drawn to new possibilities. And whereas libraries serve as vibrant community hubs, connecting people with knowledge, technology, and resources while fostering civic engagement, critical thinking, and lifelong learning. And whereas libraries provide free and equitable access to books, digital tools, and innovative programming, ensuring that all individuals, regardless of their background, have the support they need to learn, connect, and thrive. And whereas libraries partner with schools, businesses, and organizations, connecting the dots to maximize resources, increase efficiency, and expand access to essential services, strengthening the entire community. And whereas libraries empower job seekers, entrepreneurs, and lifelong learners by providing access to resources, training, and opportunities that support career growth and economic success. And whereas libraries nurture young minds through story times, STEAM programs, and literacy initiatives, fostering curiosity and a love of learning that lasts a lifetime. And whereas libraries protect the right to read, think, and explore without censorship, standing as champions of intellectual freedom and free expression. And whereas dedicated librarians and librarian workers provide welcoming space that inspire discovery, collaboration, and creativity for all. And whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers across the country are joining together to celebrate National Library Week under the theme, Drawn to the Library. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Shannon Shaw, Mayor of the City of Oakley, along with the members of the Oakley City Council, do hereby declare April 6th through April 12th, 2025 as National Library Week. During this week, I encourage all residents to visit their libraries, explore its resources, and celebrate all ways that the library draws us together as a community.
Thank you, Mayor Shaw and Council, for recognizing National Library Week, a week to celebrate the valuable role libraries, librarians, and library workers play in transforming lives and strengthening communities. It's the perfect time to visit your library. Bring the kids, invite your friends, meet the librarians and library workers, and learn about all we offer. Your library card is a passport to free technology, programs, and resources of all kinds. So come visit the library and get started on your library adventure.
Can I get the council to come down for a photo? We'll get us all down here.
Thank you.
Thank you so
very
much. Absolutely. All right. We have item 1.4, which is our Liberty Union High School District update. Superintendent Denise Rugani.
Good evening, thank you. Mayor Shaw, Vice Mayor, and council members. I'm Denise Ragani, and I'm currently the superintendent for Liberty Union High School District. I've actually been with the district for 14 years, the past 13. I was the Associate Superintendent of Human Resources. I thought I would just do a quick PowerPoint. I'm not sure, can you see it? You can see it with you? Okay, perfect. Just to highlight some of what we've been doing this year. So I just wanted to start out with, we do have 5 schools within our district. We have Freedom, Heritage, Liberty, and then the continuation school, which is La Paloma, and then we also have Independence High School. I wanted to show you our enrollment numbers. This year, it looks like we're a little bit up from last year, but overall, we're still waiting for kids. We can still have more students, so it's a little bit lower than what we've expected. And then our staff, basically, we have about 800 staff. So our goals for the school year are basically based through the LCAP goals, and it's one, to make sure that our environments are physically, emotionally supportive school environments that support student learning. 2 is to prepare our students for college and career by providing rigorous and stimulating curriculum and instructional programs. And the 3rd one is to recognize the need for our partnerships and stakeholder involvement. So the first one is just pictures of the freshman orientation. We started out the year, and these are pictures from all the different schools. It's our way of making sure that they feel welcome, understand where they're going. A lot of times they get into groups, they have safaris. Each school has something different that they do with their freshmen to make sure that they're acclimated to the school year. This year, our math scores were not very high last year, and so when they came out at the beginning of this year, we basically did something with solution tree math, which is really focusing all of our math teachers on the curriculum and looking for more innovative ways to teach and to plan their lessons. And so we've been doing that all year, as well as we've implemented EDIA. So we're hoping that this week and next week we're doing the CASP testing, and so we're hoping to see some huge improvements. Another highlight were our advanced placement summaries highlights. Where last year we had over 1,400 students take the tests, and you kind of see the percentage of students and how they did on the tests at each grade level. And so we are pretty impressed with the number of students that that they're willing to. They're taking AP courses and that they're taking the test. When you take an AP course, you don't necessarily have to take the test, but we've really encouraged our students to do that. Some of our highlights is that we had these actual classes in all 3 of our schools. The seminar class, they had the highest passing rates in the district. The seminar course and the drawing course. And in order to pass, you have to have a 3, 4, or 5. That's what passing is. And then if you look below the positive growth, Liberty had a passing rate that went from 59% to 67% last year. Heritage went from 74 to 80, and Freedom improved from 38 to 39%. So all 3 schools increased their passing rate. We had an amazing fall season for NCS. Again, 22 of our teams made the NCS playoffs, which is amazing and something to be proud of. Another thing that we've been working on is our dual enrollment. I just had some statistics here. This year, we have 672, actually we have 1,467 student classes that students are taking that are dual enrollment classes. Basically what that means is that we have 13 classes district-wide. Basically when they come out of those classes, they're also receiving college credit. So this is something that next year we're going to even increase that number. We've been working directly with LMC, and so it's been really powerful and positive. I wanted to focus a little bit on just freedom and some of the things that they have seen this year. On this, we did this, this is as of middle of January. So their suspension rates have gone down by 25%. They created 8 new clubs. We've actually improved some of their facilities. They have now all new lockers for the boys' locker room. Their special education teachers to address goal 2. We've done increased disability awareness. They've increased their A through G offerings by adding zoology and ethnic studies. And they've actually increased enrollment in their dual enrollment classes by 150%. They've also done a partnership with the Oakley Rotary Club, and what Dr. Amaro does is he has quarterly meetings with all different types of parent groups, African American groups, special ed parents, and he does this Parent Connect where he also has breakfast with the principal and different things like that, so he's pretty busy. Something else that's new this year is what we realized, and I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but the SAT is huge, but you have to go through the College Board, and in order to get a place to take the test, it's very difficult. And so kids are traveling all over the place. So this year, we actually worked with College Board so that we give the test within our school sites. So we gave it in October, and then we also just gave it over the March break, which allows access to our students because they don't have to travel, they know where they're going, and if you do it during the school day, and because of our breaks, it makes it perfect, we're able to only have our school students take the test. And so those are pictures, the 2 top pictures are Freedom students. We had about 45 to 50 students at Freedom take it. We had a little less at Liberty, and we had about 100, I think, at Heritage. And so this is going to be ongoing, and every October and October and March, we'll be giving the SAT on sites. This just highlights the Freedom Construction Academy that they're doing. They're pretty strong at Freedom High School. That was part of our bond, and they have a whole new complex. And then Unified Sports, I know many of you are aware of it, but that started at Freedom. And it's going strong. And those are just some pictures from this year, some of the Olympics that they had. I'm not sure if anybody went, but we had our inaugural trade union night, which Freedom hosted, and they actually hosted it for the entire district. We had more than 500 individuals attended, as well as 28 trades. It was a huge success, which will become an annual event. So that was very powerful. And just to end, that we're looking forward to graduation, and that's just a picture from all 5 of our sites. So I don't know if you have any questions that hopefully I'll be able to answer.
All right, any questions from Councilmember Fuller?
Yes, thank you first for the Construction Academy and the Trade Union night. I'm very happy to see that, and so are the trade unions. I can give you that feedback. One of the toughest things getting apprentices to file.
And at that evening, we had 5 students that received job offers. It was awesome. It was probably one of the best things that happened this year. So, besides some of the other SAT, but that was, yeah.
Makes me happy to live in Oakley. So the other one is a little bit awkward, but the DEI on the Latinic students with college success and the African American parent group, these I think might have grown out of DEI, and if so, are you receiving any repercussions on DEI and cutoff of funds?
Yeah, actually no, because we have all different groups at our school sites. So basically, we meet with so as long as you're meeting with all different family groups and it's open to all families, you're fine. And that's what we make sure within our school district. So all different groups, all different families, just making sure we meet the needs of the students and their families.
Thank you.
Councilmember Williams?
So the 2 things that we get always in city council, so I'm going to push it back on you now. When are we getting a new high school? So it sounded like you said while the numbers are up, we're still not enough to, okay.
And the amount of money it costs to build a high school is
And what enrollment does it need to be? Because we always get, you guys are building all these homes and there's no place for these kids to go, so.
So right now, we're not anywhere near capacity,
Okay.
and the amount of, just in general, we're not anywhere near capacity.
So it could double, or like the enrollment could
So-
double before you would need another school?
Oh, I would say our schools probably can hold about 2,800 each.
Okay,
And so if you look at Freedom, Freedom next year is scheduled to be about 2,400.
okay,
Heritage is about 25. The largest one, which we may have to relook at some of our lines, is Liberty. And that's, this year, is at like low 27, so.
okay.
And when you look at the study across time, population study, it doesn't look like for the next 4 or 5 years that, even though the houses are building, we're not seeing the number of students.
Okay, and then the other thing that I get lots of requests, and Freedom is within walking distance to my house, is there any traffic management that happens? Like, I honestly can't believe an accident hasn't happened. There's parents who park in the middle of the street, literally, and kids are, going out of all the doors, and then I just worry, my 16-year-old niece is driving, and is she gonna know how to react to that? So what is I know we don't have school buses and stuff anymore.
We do have some school buses. Are you talking about on Neroli Road, or are you talking within the school
On the
proper?
road, like,
On Neroli Road?
yeah,
I can talk to the administrators about that. I happen to pop, because I live in Concord, so that's, when I'm going to a site, I always hit them first.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm usually there first thing in the morning, and I haven't actually seen that. I have seen the stoppage within the school, which is highly annoying, but I haven't seen it around. But they do, the times I've been, and I don't tell them when I'm popping, so I usually see an administrator out, like, if you're driving, like on front of the school, not right in front of the office area, but actually towards the left side when you're facing the school. But I can bring that up with Dr. Amaro.
yeah, I
just
mean,
to see
Brown
what's
Road,
happening.
all the way, both sides, even though it says no parking, it's packed, and it's just dangerous for kids, especially if you combine the young drivers, and, then everybody comes to us and says, why isn't the city fixing this? And, at some point, I think there just has to be that connection so that we can work together to come up with a solution, because I
Yeah.
think, these drop-off lines were created a million years ago when,
It's hard, yeah. And
Yeah.
we've actually moved the buses, so the buses now go around the back. So we have that loop by the pack, and a lot of the buses are going that way.
Yeah.
So that takes them off the main road.
Yeah.
So there's
Okay.
just a lot. It's, yeah.
awesome.
I want to thank you for coming today.
Oh, thank
Thank you so much. And I did just recently find out we are going to be hosting the Special Olympics at Freedom High School.
Yes.
Just super exciting. So I wanted to give a shout out to that. And while Freedom is my favorite, Independence will always hold a special place in my heart. So,
Excellent. Thank you so much.
all right, we are going to move on to item 2, which is public comment. At this time, public comments will be heard for any items not on the agenda. I do have speaker cards submitted. If you would like to submit a public speaker card, they are located in the lobby. You could submit it to the city clerk. The time limit to speak is 3 minutes. The time limit is monitored by the timer located in front of my seat. When 1 minute remains on the timer, it will beep once as a reminder to complete your comments before your time expires. Please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, or other outbursts so that everyone may have the opportunity to be heard. Note that due to provisions of state law, the council may not engage in dialogue regarding comments. Staff may be directed to respond to persons making public comments. Denise Rendell.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Again, my name is Denise Rundle, and I'm here tonight to talk about Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. I know it's not till September, and that's like 4.5 months away, but last year I started asking the cities and police departments if they would help bring awareness to childhood cancer by doing gold, either putting it on the marquee, putting a gold ribbon by your school, by your city hall. Last year we did these car magnets, and some police departments put them on their cars, some didn't, because they have to be taken off to go through the car wash, and my understanding is the police cars get washed every other day. and they were concerned that they would forget to take them off. So, a couple of things that I thought about is, if any of the city cars would like to have these, I will purchase these for them. If employees could wear something gold, maybe one day a week, make it a fun day. As I said, putting it on the marquee. But the reason I came so early is because I would like to work with you guys and help you come up with suggestions or something that we could recognize Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in September.
Thank you so much. All right, seeing no additional speakers, I will close public comment, and we will move on to item 3, which is council member comments. Please remember that each council member will also have 3 minutes to speak. Are there any council member comments at this time? All right, seeing none, we will move on to 4, which is the consent calendar. Do I have any items that would like to be pulled?
4.1.
All right,
I move approval of the remainder.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 4.1, Councilmember Fuller.
Yes, I just believe that we can be more transparent with our minutes, and we'll vote no.
I move,
I'll second then.
I finished, I move approval of 4.1.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Passes 4-1. Item 5 is public hearings, which we have none. Item 6 is our regular calendar, which we have none, which will move us to item 7, city manager report.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. Just wanted to bring one last update or attention to our Community Day of Service this Saturday at the Rec Center starting at 8 a.m. We got 5 great community service projects that the community can participate in, and we will be providing breakfast to everyone that attends. So it should be a great time. And also wanted to draw attention that we have provided the business license list for the month of March in the agenda packet. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will move on then to item 7.2, reports from council. Anybody have a report today? Councilmember Meadows?
Last week, I attended a planning committee meeting for Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Vice Mayor Henderson?
Since our last meeting, I attended the Delta Diablo Water meeting.
Councilmember Williams?
Okay, Tri-Delta Transit, we did get a public comment voicing concern about the mechanics becoming unionized. The public speaker is an employee, and he did not want to join the union, and he said that many of the workers felt very pressured to join the union, so we received that public comment. We talked about SB 63, which looks like it's going to be moving forward. That authorizes a 10 to 15-year regional transportation to be placed on the November 26th ballot. It will be a 0.5 cent sales tax in Alameda, Contra Costa, and San Francisco counties with an opt-in option in the other counties. This one is a little bit different from the previous versions. It's all still in flux, but it does include more financial transparency. Carve out for small operators is now in there, which wasn't before. Transit agency consolidation is now removed as well, although I've heard there's a separate bill that's going for that. So MTC is still actively fighting for return to source funds. We talked a little bit about the zero-emission bus landscape. Currently, Gillig is slowing down their production on both EV and hydrogen vehicles, and there's only 2 bus makers. So for one of them to be slowing down, we're going to have some issues there. I wanted to let everybody know about the April 24th Shred It event, and that will be at our park and ride lot. We also approved the Rider Code of Conduct. I went to a Cal City's policy committee meeting in Burbank. My policy committee is community services. We talked a lot, so I won't go super in depth. There were some state budget call-outs, federal funding being cut, most likely for programs like Medicaid. So those are either going to be paid for by the general fund, where there is no money, or they'll just be cut completely. There is a bill right now called SB 74. It's a grant program for city infrastructure for shovel-ready projects with a 20% match. It is in committee right now. SB 239 and SB 707, modernization of the Brown Act, is all in committee. AB 650, housing element reform measures. I think this one's an exciting one for all of us. It does give cities more time to get housing elements started. Currently, there's less than 10 months to approve. This will extend it to over a year, plus there's an increase in accountability from HCD regarding changes in feedback. SB 79, which we sent a letter of opposition to, rewards transit-oriented developments, but it extends the density bonus, adding up to 75 feet height, no matter what the local jurisdiction requires, and it's on any land that any transit authority owns. We had a conversation from Hafsa Kaka, the Senior Advisor to Homelessness, Office of Governor Newsom. There are another round of encampment resolution funds coming out. She encouraged everybody to look at the accountability website with dashboards for housing, point-in-time counts, and utilize that specifically for working with our counties for unallocated funds. We also had a speaker from Home Again Los Angeles. They deal with homeless families, first-time homeless families, and getting them into homes. And I'm going to skip all of that. We did have an action item that we took. It's on AB 543, and it allows for immediate presumptive eligibility to Medi-Cal, which would make their coverage instantaneous for street medical teams. The importance of this is it allows for data sharing across the healthcare spectrum, allows homeless beneficiaries to seek care directly. It's immediate healthcare services rather than delayed access to care. Our street medicine providers are finding that they're trying to go do these wound care and things in the field, and if they don't know if the person has Medi-Cal or not, they may lose that person. So we talked about that, and we did approve that, but said that we don't want to make sweeping additions to Medi-Cal. This is short. Okay, let's see. So then I'll let Mayor Shaw talk about her things. I did meet with Contra Costa Health to talk about healthy communities and land use and supporting healthy communities. And they would like to use Oakley as sort of a test site to do some workshops and things like that. So hopefully we'll be able to kick those off soon. Went to the mayor's conference. Senator Grayson is introducing legislation to help communities attract manufacturing and quantum technology. I also met with the CEO of China Silicon Valley, and he is now an executive board member of Sister Cities International and wants to help cities continue the relationship between international cities and our schools. So that is it. Thank you very much.
Okay. On the 26th, I attended Tri-Delta, but Councilmember Williams has already talked about that. I was also in Burbank for Cal City's Policy Committee, and my policy is public safety. We spent the majority of our time discussing AB 992 and SB 385, which are education requirements for law enforcement. Current legislation, AB 89, requires new hires within 2 years to receive both modern policing degrees and a bachelor's degree, also increasing the minimum age for law enforcement from 18 to 21. And while AB 992 and SB 385 are similar, what they both do is extend the timeline to 3 years and also push out when it would start. So AB 992 would be effective. They would have to have the education requirements by January 2031 and SB 385 by January 2029. It would remove if adopted, they would remove the requirement to have both modern policing and bachelor's, and it would require just one or the other. And also bachelor's would be changed to other different types of education. There would be some allowances for previous experience and military experience. So currently the curriculum for the modern policing degree is not even been created yet. So we were concerned that there's already recruitment problems within law enforcement, and now potentially with this change, it could make recruitment even harder. So ultimately, we voted to recommend to the board to support it with amendments requesting flexibility around funding, flexibility around extending timelines, provisions for if somebody is deployed to military duty, a wider range of degree options, and language on how small and rural cities will address if they don't have resources to local continued education. So that was kind of our one big conversation. We also had a small conversation about AB 75, which is going to, if approved, require insurance companies to give homeowners 30-day notice before drones or any other aerial footage is used to assess a property, and that the homeowners will be provided with the copies of those photos upon request. Some updates on the fires and all the legislation that's coming out for that. I had a Cal Cities East Bay legislative report out Zoom that updated all the East Bay legislators on what we discussed at our policy committee. I did pop in on accident to the Planning Commission that night, but it was nice to see all 5 planning commissioners with our new appointees all in attendance. The Contra Costa Mayor's Conference with an update from East Bay Regional Parks. I had a meeting with Senator Cabalden's staff, and he is going to be hosting a roundtable in Brentwood later this week. And I had a Zoom with some residents and interested parties regarding Oakley's climate action plan. And that is all I have. So we will move on to 7.2B, request for future agenda items. Anybody have any? Councilmember Williams?
As I stated in my report, Sister Cities International is looking to see if we can move forward any conversations about sister cities. So I would love to have a work session or something so we can talk about the possibilities of sister cities.
I think there are a lot of cities out there that we could potentially partner with, and I would like to hear what those are. So I would support having that conversation, whatever that looks like for council. And having hosted German exchange students in my home and my kids going to Germany, I think it's kind of important to give this to our youth, so yes. All right, we are going to move on to 8.1, which is Planning and Zoning Work Session 2025. Work session to discuss 3 topics related to planning and zoning. 1, short-term rentals in the downtown specific plan. 2, allowability of 4-H livestock program activities in the city of Oakley. And 3, inclusionary housing policy. Ken Strelo, Community Development Director.
Thank you very much, and good evening, Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. So as mentioned in the project title there, this is a planning work session on 3 different topics, and I will present these each separately to allow for discussion and feedback from the council after each one. Why are these being brought to you? These were all topics that were brought up for requests for future agenda items that were seconded by 1 or more members of the City Council, and that's just a summary there. That information is also in the staff report. And we will start off with short-term rentals, abbreviated as a STR, in the downtown specific plan. So a short-term rental is a fancy way of saying an Airbnb or a VRBO. We know these as areas you can, people can rent rooms and or complete units. And our municipal code does permit these with a permit. Chapter 5.15 is the area of the code that has the regulations and everything in accordance with the STRs. Our code requires them to be hosted stays, meaning they need to be, the owner of the unit needs to be present except for daytime or working hours, and when they're not present, they need to be available to respond to calls of concern. And our ordinance also prohibits vacation rentals, which is defined as a unit that is not the owner's primary residence. So in summary, our code permits hosted stays that are not vacation rentals, and in the event that the owner is not present at the site, they need to be available. When we talk about Oakley downtown, typically we pull out the downtown specific plan. This is a map of the downtown specific plan area showing the 3 sub areas that are in the downtown specific plan. And the downtown specific plan does not contain any special regulations that apply to short-term rentals. So they would apply in the downtown under the current ordinance, just as they do anywhere else in the city. And that concludes my presentation for short-term rentals. I know the council had asked for that to come forward, so I'm happy to answer any questions, take down notes, and receive any direction should there be any.
Thank you. Councilmember Meadows?
I'm the one that asked for it to come forward. And my thinking is that I understand why we would want hosted units in our neighborhoods. My thinking on downtown, though, core area, maybe a support area, is that we're trying to increase the people down here, and trying to bring more business, more restaurant, entertainment type businesses down here. And if we have some short-term rentals in the downtown area, they could help support those types of businesses. I don't see Oakley as a huge destination area, but I think there's some demand, probably more around some of the fishing tournaments and those types of items. There's also the occupancy tax that comes along with it too. So I would like to see us move in that direction in the downtown.
All right. Anyone else? Councilmember Williams?
Okay, I have questions, not for you, for you. So I think right now we have sort of a hard time enforcing this, right? Like we don't have anybody who's monitoring necessarily VRBOs or anything like that, right? Like I'm assuming it's complaint-based. That's how we catch people who are utilizing their property for sort of short-term rental stays and not following the rules.
Yeah, I don't know how much I want to say on that. I know that our code enforcement division does sometimes come across non-permitted short-term rentals. We do from time to time receive complaints on them as well, but there is no proactive enforcement. There's really no way to know
Yeah, of
that
course.
someone's renting the place unless it's thrown in our face or we receive information on that.
Okay, and then now my questions, I guess, are for you. So
That would be me.
yes, sorry. Okay, so I guess and maybe everybody in the room, can we pull back up that map? Like where would you want this to open up, right?
Probably definitely the core and probably the support area.
Okay.
I'm not so sure about the commercial conversion opportunity area. I mean, it's a possibility, but
I mean, do we have a rough estimate of?
I mean, actually looking at it, I would say probably all three of those areas.
Okay. Do we have a rough estimate of how many current houses are in that?
I don't have that.
Sorry, I
available.
did not prepare you. I'm so sorry. I'm just thinking of it now, not.
Probably not more than 125 units, probably. 150 units maybe.
When we have like fishing tournaments and stuff, I know that, our friends at the hotel said that the fishing tournaments sell them out. Are we currently do we run a deficit? Do we have to send people to Brentwood? Do we know or have any?
I think the fishermen's go to Brentwood. Sometimes they're in Antioch, and sometimes they're in Oakley. Yeah.
I'm not necessarily opposed to this. I just, my stance on housing, and in the downtown, the homes tend to be a little bit smaller, and so those would be the ones that potentially are going to be a lower price point for people wanting to purchase. So that's the only part of it. I mean, if there's some sort of still owner, like, I don't want an outside investment company being able to own these and rent these, and that's where I get concerns, because that's kind of what's happening in other cities, and I don't want to lose our housing for somebody who doesn't live here or, and I get it. Not everybody who owns a home here lives here, but I just don't want an outside investment in company, I think is my biggest fear.
I don't think that's something you could control, though. Or we could control.
Councilmember Fuller?
Yes, how many short-term rentals to one building? Is there a limit?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Well, okay, short-term rentals, motels,
Yeah.
okay? How many short-term rentals can be in one building? Say if they're Airbnb, they're,
I mean,
can they
typically,
have 10 out of 10 units? Or,
the most we've seen is one per unit, whether it's a bedroom or just a complete residential unit. I have not seen a case where someone would even attempt to apply for a second one, so I haven't come across that yet.
I would suggest we talk, not necessarily here, but with Chief Beard about short-term rentals in downtown areas and what can happen and what they can attract in different industries and how they operate before we go ahead and with anything enhancing short-term rentals. That's just from my experience and my observations that go on. I'm happy with the way it is now, but I will ask if they want to move forward, more definition from Chief Beard and from the police department, how their responses to it.
I would like to add to that, and if this is a conversation that we're going to continue to have, I know that there is monitoring programming out there that would be a cost to the city if this was going to be something that we did start, and I would like to look into what that cost would be. I don't want to put more burden on staff time if we're going to add a new product. So I would be interested to know what the potential cost would be if we were to bring that programming in. Councilmember Meadows?
What is the per night tax? How do we structure the TOT?
It's the same as it would be for a hotel.
So what is it for the hotel?
What is that amount? I don't know that offhand.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
And I was assuming it would be the same as a hotel. I just kind of wanted to know the price, but.
So are we then comfortable giving direction to staff to look into that information? Or is there any other direction that you guys have? Just anything else you need?
I don't know if I've heard consensus on whether or not there.
Oh, I didn't hear from Vice Mayor Henderson. I'm so sorry. I didn't even. You're so quiet. Vice
I
Mayor.
think it's something that we should look into and bring back. I think the TOT is a benefit. I think the benefit of getting people downtown, especially when you look at the fishing tournaments and stuff, would be worth looking at.
Anything from this side of the room?
If you're asking me, I would like to hear how the chief weighs in before I make a final decision on this.
Well, and it would have to be brought back for us to make that decision. So I don't have a problem asking if the chief wanted to weigh in on that, but then also the costs for staff and or outside assistance.
Yeah, we could bring back another work session. I think you guys have given great input, and we could bring back, a series of, the number of parcels, what the actual TOT percentage is. Off the top of my head, I believe it's 7%, but don't quote me. And maybe some possible changes to the ordinance as it exists now to get you starting to have that discussion about, what an ordinance could potentially look like.
All right.
Sorry. I mean, I know you do this typically with other work sessions, but if we could get sort of a breakdown of what neighboring cities do, I think that's helpful.
All right, back to you.
To move on? Thank you very much for the feedback. The second topic we'll go over is for the allowability of 4-H program activities or similar activities within the city of Oakley. So there's a little bit of background I provided in the staff report and is summarized here. The limited agriculture district, our AL district, the green colors on our zoning map, they allow for the keeping of horses and livestock, and I underlined livestock there just to call attention to that. Horses, excluding other types of livestock, are allowed in the R40 single-family residential district, which is typically 40,000 square foot lots or larger. And the AL district only, and only the AL district, also allows for the temporary raising of up to 3 additional livestock for up to 4 months. And it specifically calls out 4-H as an example. And then on the right-hand side there, I just included some of the equations we use to figure out how many horses and livestock or horses are approved on any sort of property. And typically it's about 1 for the first half acre or 20,000 square feet, and then an additional animal for each 10,000 square feet above that. There's also a provision in our code that allows for small farming. It's kind of defined as the raising of small animals such as fowl for home consumption or other small animals such as rabbits. It's allowed in the AL district and the R40 district and the R20 district as well. But I just want to point out that the R20 district does not allow for horses at all. So horses, R40 and AL. R20, no horses, but it does allow for small farming. When it comes to 4-H program activities, those could obviously be part of the permitted allowable animals on any of these sites, depending on the zone. And in the case of additional animals, as was stated earlier, it could also be allowed. And then for the keeping of horses and other animals, there's provisions in the code that try to reduce or eliminate the animals becoming a nuisance on adjacent residential uses.
All right.
I don't remember if pointed out, but the 4-H is allowed with the temporary use permit. I think that was in the first slide. So we haven't really received any of those requests. We almost did recently. I don't think anything has come in, but that's typically it. So the 4-H activities could occur as part of the allowable uses on the property or through a TUP if additional animals are needed.
All right, any questions? Councilmember Meadows.
How easy is it to get the temporary use permit?
I'm sorry,
How easy, is it easy to get the temporary use permit?
Excuse me. Yeah, the temporary use permit process is pretty straightforward. We do quite a few of them every year. We route them internally for comments, and unless there's a reason not to approve it, they're typically approved.
And then 4-H is allowed in R20 and above or greater?
So 4-H could be allowed in R20, but it would only be for small farming, not for horses or livestock.
Okay. But in R40, there could be
Horses or small farming in R40.
no livestock?
Only livestock in AL, that's per our code, our current code.
I would be supportive of looking at, with the temporary use permit, 4-H for the 4 months on R40.
For livestock as well?
Stock.
Pigs, goats, everything else?
I mean, we can allow horses. I'm okay allowing livestock. I think there should be a set number based on whatever you have. But
Councilmember Fuller.
Yes. What animals are in the 4-H? What animals do they raise? What animals do they present?
You know, I don't want to claim to be an expert on 4-H. From what I've seen, it's usually smaller livestock. Yeah.
Happy to help. Pigs, goats, sheep, cows, dogs, did I say goats already? Yeah, right?
Yeah,
Chickens and rabbits, but chickens and all fowl are banned from this year's fair, so nobody got to do that.
yes, the reason I asked is I didn't think horses were involved in 4-H, number one. Number two, thank you, Councilmember Williams, but yes, I remember cows. I'm not quite sure. Seems like some places there might have been even bulls or larger ones, but in this area, I think they fit into the small animals. Some of the sheep get big, but not that big in my mind. So I don't know. I don't think we're pushing the boundaries. Maybe with a cow takes a lot more work. It has to be milked. It has to be cleaned up after. It has to be fed, and such things. And one thing that is bothering me is what I would not like to see is that the teenagers, I think they are mostly teenagers or 4-H members, have their animals in a different location than their home. If my thoughts are that if they ought to have some retrospect. In other words, they ought to be able to look at the animal every day, monitor the progress, monitor what's going on, and a 3-day trip to Disneyland, they ought to make sure it's covered. But when they go off in a different area, being kids, sometimes they have to be reminded to get over there when it isn't right there. So, but I like the idea. I mean, my daughter got all sorts of ribbons, and I think I've mentioned it. And I've been a big fan of 4-H, graduating from Iowa State, and it has many benefits. I agree. So if we can figure out a way to do it, those two animals, so horses and large referring to the size of a cow or bull, are a problem with me, or a situation with me to be looked at closer.
Councilmember Williams.
So the most popular 4-H programs currently, especially since the chickens are out this year, are the larger animals. It's because those are the animals that, 4-H animals are for consumption. So the larger your animal is, the more you're going to get at the auction, and then you'll be able to do projects. So, there is some concerns about that. The cows don't get to milking age. 4-H is only supposed to be a 4-month project. If the kid wants to keep it, they have to buy their animal, and then I guess they would have to figure out where to put that animal. But the pigs do get really big, really fast. They can weigh up to 800 pounds. You want your animal. Sorry, Josh, I shouldn't be saying this since I know your daughter wants a pig. But they can get really large, really fast. I think originally the intent of this was because the 4-H had come to us at that meeting, and they had said that they were struggling to find places to put their animals. And so I think that was sort of why this discussion came back. I like what Councilmember Meadows proposed, that we do a temporary use permit in these areas, because what typically happens is the kids are going someplace to a meeting, and a lot of times they have to practice traveling with the animals, right? So they'll have workshops at one place, but they have to go trailer their animal to this other, and they do this whole thing. So these kids are really dedicated. No one's forgetting to go feed every day. So I think the problem is that there's a lack of availability of places for them, right? So I thought originally the intent of this was to look at all the places in the city where are 40 and above, maybe, where we could have that. So that way the 4-H kids can all sort of lump together. I do wonder if, like on the 2-acre parcels, we're able to have, I think, like 4 horses, but then you get 3, you can only do 3 4-H animals. That would make it hard if a group of kids are finding this one place to get together. So there's definitely merit in this. There's definitely a lot of people who want it. There was supposed to be people sending in public comment, but didn't. So it would be nice to have some direction from them, like what their needs are. But could we look at the possibility of temporary use permits? Could we look at that for even sort of different parcels on the smaller if we capped smaller, could we do temporary use permit if it's for 4-H on some of these smaller parcels too, but, you know, like weight, size, animal kind of limit? I would love to have a discussion around those possibilities.
Vice Mayor Henderson?
And I know we're using 4-H as kind of a dialogue, but we got to remember that our high school has a Future Farmers of America program that's been around forever, and you're with the same requirements for animals too. So we just don't want to focus too hard just on one organization, that there's more than one.
And I raised pigs in high school, and I lived in an apartment complex, so there was no option whatsoever for me. So to say that it needs to be on their parcel, I think would exclude people. And I was lucky that my school had access where I could have raised my pig at the high school. So I do think I like the idea of the temporary use permits where they aren't necessarily now, just for these 4 months. And if it's supported by the majority to have that conversation.
I just had an FFA question. Does that exclude those FFA kids though, or is that only a 4-month? I know I was gonna say something when the superintendent, oh wait, are you still here? I can't see with my glasses. Oh my gosh. That's why that's why Liberty has the biggest, is because everybody wants into the FFA program there. And so a bunch of our kids go specifically for that program. But do we, is that like a 4-month? I don't know anything about FFA. I just know people fight to get into the program. But is that year long? Would we be having issues if we said that it was a 4-month temporary use, or?
I believe it's 4 months. It might be a little bit longer, but it's around that time frame.
Okay, so it probably mimics like the fair schedule. That's when babies are being born and all that stuff, so.
So if we bring this back, we can potentially have that answer, have some recommended language on the change. And Councilmember Fuller?
Yes, just keep in mind, my memory is that every animal is brought into the ring or whatever, however you're raising it, but it's intended to be sold for slaughter at the end of the period. So 4 months kind of fits in, and it's self-ending, so to speak, at the end of the presentation.
Yeah, I'm aware. My friend bought part of my pig and fed it to me. So, yeah. So, yeah, 4 months. But, yeah, we can get clarification around FFA. I think we have a consensus. Councilmember Williams?
Sorry, one more thing, because everybody saw this on the agenda, and I got inundated with 500 messages about chickens and chicken ordinances and all of that stuff. So people wanted me to remind everybody that we are in an egg shortage, and the general rule of thumb is 1 chicken per family member in order to produce eggs to sustain you. So I got 400 messages. So if we could just look at something on these smaller lots and what possibilities we would have, utilizing tools like temporary use permits and all of that stuff to make it so that people are kind to their neighbors, but also we're still staying true to our agricultural roots.
All right, good on that one?
Yeah, would you like me to bring back, it sounds like proposed language for an ordinance, but not necessarily bring an ordinance for consideration? You got it.
Yep.
Yep, clear. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. All right, number 3.
Number 3, the final topic for discussion is inclusionary housing policy. So an inclusionary housing policy is typically adopted by ordinance. They normally would require new residential developments to include a certain percentage of units to be made available as affordable to low and moderate income households. And the main goal of the inclusionary housing is to increase the stock of affordable housing. On the right side there, it just talks about what some inclusionary housing policies may include, such as in lieu fees, and then just states the obvious that the City of Oakley does not have an inclusionary policy ordinance at this time. There was one many, many, many years ago, before the downtown specific plan was adopted, but it wasn't really a policy. It was more of a single condition of approval in the old redevelopment area planned unit district, which was a P1 district that encompassed most of downtown and other areas along Main Street. And the conditions simply said projects with 3 or more units had to provide a minimum of 15% affordable housing units. There was no in lieu fee established as a part of that. So just a little bit of background on what we call RHNA, and that's the Regional Housing Needs Allocation. This is a number of units separated, or I guess categorized by different income, availability to income levels that is set forth by the State Department of Housing and Community Development. It's included in our housing element, and the city needs to plan the city in a way to accommodate those units, not build them, not pay for them, but to accommodate them, to allow them to be built. Our most recent housing element update, which was certified by HCD in May of 2023, includes 440 lower income units, 172 moderate income level units. It also has above moderate. We don't have a problem hitting that. As of right now today, the city of Oakley uses an affordable housing overlay. Let me correct that, an affordable housing overlay. And it was in previous housing elements. It has been somewhat successful in that it has brought about the development of some affordable units, but it is an overlay district, so it does apply to existing zoning districts, and it's overlaid on top. So it provides another option for development of those properties. And what it does is it essentially increases the base density and has some other stipulations in it as well to encourage affordable housing. However, we did run into some complications, as some of you may remember when the last housing element was certified, and that was that there was a court case where a city's AHO was basically stated by HCD to be no good. They couldn't use it. We didn't think it was similar to ours. We thought ours was much better. Nonetheless, we came forward to the city council with an idea to provide a provision in the housing element that would allow another option, which is rezoning. HCD loved that idea. They certified our document. So as we move forward, which we're doing right now, we're moving forward right now with all these exercises, and these things will be coming to the council within the next couple of months. But why? Why an AHO and a rezone? Why has the city of Oakley chosen to do this instead of an inclusionary housing policy? And really the answer is pretty straightforward. There's just not a lot of vacant, undevelopable land left in Oakley that is not either entitled or has applications for housing that have been deemed complete and are already going through the process. And I have a slide coming up that will kind of give you a good kind of summary of what that is. So if an inclusionary housing policy were adopted today, it wouldn't automatically apply to all of those entitled units or projects that have already been deemed complete and are going through the entitlement process. Also, if one were done, or it was to include an in lieu fee, and that were an option for developers, they may choose the in lieu fee option while developing vacant property, which then decreases the stock of available property. With the AHO and rezone, we feel like we've set aside properties specifically for affordable housing. And this is just kind of a step. This is how the steps would work if there were an in lieu fee option. So it would have to be included in the inclusionary housing policy, and in most cases it would be included. It would allow developers to pay a specific fee which would be established by the city in lieu of building affordable units. And I did a little bit of research on what that might look like. It kind of varies depending on the method that is used. Typically it's around $20,000 to $50,000 per unit. And of course, depending on the neighborhood and the cost of construction at the time. And in order to receive the in lieu fee, the city would first need to conduct an inclusionary housing policy and do a fee study, and then adopt the program with the fee. And then an affordable housing trust would have to be established. That would have to be administered and managed by city staff. And then the city would not use those funds to build homes, but they would partner with developers or others to build the homes. And I mentioned a couple slides ago how there's not a lot of available land. I did some calculations based on the housing element, our last housing element, and this is kind of what came of it. So available residential land for development, this is vacant land. So if someone has a 5-acre lot with a house, this probably wasn't included in this calculation, but vacant land zoned residential or ag limited, given the maximum allowable densities on those properties and the acreage, 978 units could be developed. Not affordable units, just units, if someone were to come in with a housing project without a density bonus. Land associated with approved tentative maps, so these are units that probably wouldn't be subject to to this policy if were one to be adopted. Total approximately 4,700 units right now. So that includes, now some of those are under construction because again, this is based off when we adopted the housing element, but this includes East Cypress Corridor, that whole expansion area, developments happening on Sellers in East Cypress, as well as things in the city like the Stonewood projects off of O'Hara. And then the potential capacity of existing candidate and potential affordable housing overlay and rezone sites, given a 30 dwelling units per acre base maximum density, would be 1,317 units. And that's kind of based on what we identified in the housing element. Now, a lot of these still need to be adopted, have the affordable housing overlay or rezone put on them. And then out of those, based on the calculations that our consultants use to assume the number of affordable based on the total number of units, approximately 994 would be assumed as lower income. So as you can see with our current method, how we're moving forward for this housing element, the number of lower income level units would be equal to about the same number of total units that could be built on vacant land. And then this is just a map, just to kind of give you a visual sort of idea of current development projects in the city. Now, it does include some commercial or applications for commercial and light industrial, but everything on the right, it would not apply. Most of the colors in central Oakley and along Sellers Avenue, it would not apply as well. So those are kind of the thoughts of staff moving forward, if that appeases the council. And I know that was a lot, but that's about all I have for this topic. So I'm happy to take input on this and hear back from the council. And we've got the same 3 steps here: questions, discussion, and direction. Thank you very much.
All right, any questions for council or for staff? Councilmember Fuller?
Yes, for our city attorney, is there any problem with us dictating what can be built and what can't be built on a piece of land, especially in terms of affordable housing? I know we have certain guidelines for non-affordable housing, but now we're moving further into limiting land use. Like if it's 20%, then you only have 80% to use in the way that use there. So I'm curious if there's going to be any blowback legally for putting it in an inclusionary section.
I would say not at this time. I think what Ken had explained is that we're going with the guidance that we've already received and making sure that it's approved by the regulating agencies. And land has always been regulated with certain inclusionary and exclusionary policies. I'm not seeing a glaring red flag.
And the other one, I'm not in favor in lieu for what it matters. Also, what kind of percentage are we talking about in units built? I know we have, don't we have on our surplus land sold 20% has to go for affordable housing?
Yeah, and that's also what staff will be bringing back to the council for an amendment to our current affordable housing overlay, and probably similar for our rezone. If we go that route, it'd be a minimum 20% affordable.
Okay, and we're talking about deedable affordable housing.
55 years.
What's that?
It'd be 55-year deed restrictions.
55-year deed. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Williams?
I mean, obviously, at the time I asked for this, it was previous to when we had gotten all the feedback, and I'm happy to not have to keep pushing for this. I just think that we really have to take the affordability seriously here. I mean, currently we don't have anything that's affordable. Don't start. Our median income can support a $550,000 house. There's 2 houses on the market currently that support our median income. So the issues that I have are obviously, I don't want to keep building $1 million homes when our kids who live here can't buy those, or, any of the people who are current, not that it's a problem. I didn't come from Oakley. I didn't grow up in Oakley, but I think that we have to be cognizant that we do not have the jobs to support our current residents. And so all we're doing is increasing their commute, increasing their traffic, increasing all of that stuff. And then all these folks come here and buy these $1 million homes and then complain that there's no grocery store and all we have are gas stations. So I just want to have I just want us to have the eye on balancing that. And I've said at every housing element, we have no problems at all of the above moderate, but that's not what our current population supports. So I don't want to do anything that's going to decrease availability to affordable housing. I just want to make sure that we are doing everything in our power as an agency to also incentivize that affordable build, I think, is the problem, or where I'm coming from. The original intent was, well, we're not getting these affordable units built, so maybe we need to incentivize the individual developers to help do that. If that's going to decrease the overall number that we're going to have available, then I'm obviously not for that. I just think that we have to come up with ways that we can make this something where the teachers, the grocery store workers don't have to live 7 hours away. It's just crazy to me. Why are they going to work here if they can't even buy a home here? So that's my only concern, is that I want to make sure that we're housing our folks and not just in $1 million homes.
And I'm going to jump in really quick. My other concern on that is the potential increase in the cost of homes, right? So if we do this inclusionary or they do the in lieu, they're going to make up that money, and it could potentially even increase the cost of those homes. So I think that we need to potentially think about, would the increase on 80% of the homes then justify the 20% inclusionary? But I agree, we need to find ways to make it happen. I just don't want to risk the increase even higher than it's already so unaffordable to buy here. So that was my thought. Councilmember Meadows?
I can go now.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of go off of what Councilmember Williams said, I guess what you're telling us is we need to bring jobs here. And I'm all for that.
5,000%. I do not disagree.
We need to bring jobs here so that our residents can live and work here. And that's what I've said from day one. I am okay with what we have now. I don't see any need for any changes. HCD was happy with our housing element. We're probably one of the first ones to be approved in the state, probably in the first quarter, definitely.
We did get hit with the builder's remedy.
Well, but we were still one of the first ones to be approved. I mean, one of the Contra Costa County cities, I believe, was just approved within the last month. Okay, so and that's almost 2 years after us being approved. So, I mean, they were obviously happy with what we submitted, and I'm okay with it. So I'm not looking for any changes, but bring jobs.
So if Councilmember Meadows is not looking for changes and you're saying that you're okay, I also think that I'd like to see the work that we are doing with the rezone and what that's going to look like. So I really think that this may be kind of putting the cart before the horse. I really want to see what that looks like once that's presented in a couple months. So Councilmember Fuller?
Yes, for the record, I favor 20% of each development having deedable affordable housing. If there's a better percentage, I certainly would be Listening, I believe, is advantageous. It's advantageous for our community. It's advantageous for the goals that we want to set in the state and establish, go along for families. And the example that I keep bringing back up, but it's a firm example. If you go to Eagle Rock or North Hollywood in Southern California and Los Angeles, you'll find 900 square foot houses with fairly decent backyards, and they were built for the veterans at World War II, so they could bring down their families and live there and work and go to school if they wanted to. And so we've done it before in this country, we've done it before in this state, and I think that this would be an admirable way to go.
Councilmember Meadows?
Except you wouldn't find any demand for it from the public.
All right, so is that consensus enough? All right, then thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then, let's see, so we do have 2 closed session items, public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.5E, title City Manager, in conference with labor negotiators, agency designated representatives, myself, Mayor Shaw, and Vice Mayor Henderson, City Attorney Cole, and unrepresented employee City Manager. We will be adjourning after we are through with closed session, and thank you all for coming.